Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Anne-Marie McEwen here. It's Sunday, December the 30th, 2018. It's 8 p.m. New York time, 5 p.m. in Los Angeles. It's after midnight, 1 a.m. in London, and in Sydney, Australia, it's around lunchtime. So wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for yet another edition of LOA Today. Whether you're tuning into the live stream or listening to the recording after the fact, either way, we are very grateful for you to be a part of our Sunday evening here. And it's been quite the weekend here. It's been quite the week here. I told the story on Thursday about our Christmas miracle, and I was just kibitzing with Anne-Marie just before we got started about that and how it really just picked up the week. I mean, the week didn't start real great, right, Anne-Marie? We were in the hospital and so forth, and then we had this miracle on Christmas Day, and from that point on, we've been wreathed in smiles. We went to her brother's house in Rhode Island today, spent time with his family, because that's what we were planning to do last Christmas Eve. So it was sort of like a delayed Christmas event today, which was great. And so we didn't miss Christmas after all. We just kind of got, delayed about 6 days. So that was our Christmas holiday. How was your Christmas holiday? Did you have a good one?
It was very nice. It really was. My parents just downsized, so it wasn't a huge craziness of, flurry of all this stuff. It was just peaceful, and it was really happy. My granddaughter's 5 years old, so she is just just such a great age for Christmas. So we really enjoyed it. It was, Mike and I got up early Christmas morning and drove to my parents' house and put the presents under the tree, and it was just wonderful. Really couldn't have been better. We went to my sister-in-law and my brother's house for lunch, and that was really nice. It wasn't stressed at all. It was nice dinner. It was good company. It was very nice and just relaxing and just nice. I got to talk to my kids and my other kids that weren't there, and it was just nice. So we didn't go crazy with presents or anything, but we were happy to not go crazy with presents, It's not all about the gifts.
Well, especially with a 3-year-old. I mean, a 3-year-old, that's like Christmas all by itself, just watching a 3-year-old experience the whole thing. You don't need to have anything else. You just enjoy that part.
Right. She's amazing. And so that's great. And my 3-year-old grandson is he's actually in New Orleans for Christmas now. And, I get to watch him on Facebook. We did a Facebook thing with him. Facebook, but
FaceTime?
FaceTime, thank you.
Yes.
All these face things.
I know, they're all faces, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're also allowed to be a little bit harried because you're at the Buttonwood. I mean, you're not even relaxing right now. You're at work doing this. And so, first of all, I want to tell you thank you for taking the time to do it. Because you got stuff on your mind right now, and you're taking the time out to do the podcast, and that's wonderful. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, well, I just finished the program booklet like 2 seconds ago, so I'm happy that that's done. We're doing a big peace gathering tomorrow,
right? New Year's Eve
at Harbor Park. You went there last year. I have some pictures of you. I'll have to send them over to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Louise and I were both there. And I'm kind of sad. It looks like Louise and I probably won't be able to make it this year, which we're kind of sad about. But she's got some, medical assistance, physical therapy and so forth. We really can't miss that. But you guys are going to have fun tonight. You had like a venue issue, and it sounds like you got that all ironed out, so that's fabulous.
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no.
We still have a venue issue, but we're just going to do it at the park where we did it the first year. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to access the boathouse so we can have access to bathrooms and a little bit of shelter. So we'll see. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but time will tell. And in any case, we are prepared to go on and meet as, it might take 2 hours for us to be there. We might, if it's inclement in any way, we might do it less time, but we're planning on having the fire. I know Mike is bringing some drums, and he got a Tibetan singing bowl for Christmas.
Oh, those are nice.
Yeah, there's a really great gift shop around the corner from the Buttonwood Tree called Tesoro, and we got a bunch of Christmas gifts from there, including the Tibetan singing bowl. So he is quite pleased with that, and he's going to be ringing the bowl, and we've got some other gongs. Andrew Cruz coming with gongs and chimes, and Hannah's Field is going to be there to play some music, and we're going to do a lot of sing-alongs. Not a lot, but, maybe 4 or 5 sing-alongs. Mm-hmm. And we'll have some words by Anita Gandhi, who's an Indian spiritual guide, sort of, healer. She's just a wonderful intuitive, and she wrote some words for us, so it's kind of a message for 2019. So I'll be reading that, and it's just a way that we can get together and really put our positive energies together to unite in love for peace, for the new world. And we also burn our burdens, even though it's the contrast in life that helps us to create more and teaches us, but we're going to burn them. Tomorrow we'll be burning them and setting our hopes on fire and sending them up to the heavens with the hopes that they'll come true. So it'll be a nice little ceremony. I think you liked it last year. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, it was a completely new kind of ceremony to me. I'd never been through anything like that before, so I was just kind of taking it all in. But, in terms of contrast, I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to burn your burdens, because I think one of the main points of contrast is to have the opportunity to choose what it is you want out of life, and to say, no, I don't want that part. Yes, I do want this part. That's what contrast is all about. So burning your burdens, letting your burdens go, you're basically saying, no, thank you. I'm not interested in the burdens anymore. I'm done with them. Let them move on. No more. I'm done with those. That's perfectly legitimate as far as I'm concerned. That's the whole point of being in contrast. So, it makes a lot of sense to me. Let go of all that stuff. Let go of the negativity. Because the negativity is just holding us back anyway. It's holding us back from what we want, from what we're looking for, from the abundance that we're trying to get to, right? We talk about the abundance a lot. So, you got to get rid of the old in order to let in the new. It makes a lot of sense. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I like the fact that you guys are focusing on the love. In fact, you asked me before the show, what's the topic today? And I told you, we'll just kind of wing it. I'm thinking that's the topic, because whenever a new year comes in, it's kind of like a good time to reset the course, so to speak. Perhaps you're not quite happy about this, you like that, but not this. So you reset the course, you redirect, and I like the idea of focusing on love, particularly given all of the reasons people have these days to not be focusing on love. To me, that's the time to do it, and that's the time that's most important to do it, because when we're not focusing on love, we're focusing on the stuff we don't like. And the more we focus on the stuff that we don't like, the more we attract of what we don't like. And we get more of what we don't like, and so we focus more on what we don't like. And we get more of what we don't like, and so we focus on more of what we don't like.
That's right.
Did I mention this part about focusing on...
It's kind of a vicious circle.
It really is. It's terrible.
I know.
And focusing on love is like the highest emotional level. So, let's focus on the highest emotional level. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'm always a firm believer in focusing on the positive and focusing on what you want. Mm-hmm. Like, you just don't focus. I mean, you can acknowledge, you can recognize, you can feel the things that you don't want, but then let them go, let them go quickly and focus on what it is that you do want. And that's the biggest thing that I think that you've got to, you've got to really recognize in your life is, what am I focusing on? And I love Abraham's analogy of getting in your car and driving to, I always use the reference points of New York or Connecticut and, California. And when you get in your car, you want to go to California. So you point your car in the direction of west, let's say, and you keep going in that direction, which is, that's where you want to go. So that's the good direction. Mm-hmm. But so many times we start driving, and then all of a sudden we stop, we get out of the car and we look around and we go, whoa, this isn't where I want to be. And then you head backwards, and you just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you never get to California because you haven't maintained your positive focus long enough to make progress. Mm. And so I constantly am reminding myself that and encouraging others to continue to focus on the positive, no matter what the situation is, no matter what's happening around you, just keep going. Even if crap's happening all around you, just just keep going. Just
Yes.
keep going. Don't look at it, just keep going. So,
And as usually happens when we talk about something, this time we decided to talk about love and focusing on what we want. As usual, we got a question that is right in line with what we're talking about. Serkan's
Great.
listening, and Serkan's asking simple question: how can I manifest something? And that's the answer. You focus on what you want to do, what you want to attract, and you do it from a place of love. When you're in love, you're in that highest vibrational place. And when you're in your highest vibrational place, that's when you're going to, first of all, be able to focus on what it is that you want to manifest for a longer period of time, get into the feeling of it, like Neville Goddard says, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Getting into the feeling of it, enjoying it, experiencing it it's almost like a video that you're a part of, and you're playing it, and you're playing it, and you're playing it, and you're getting really excited, and you're feeling it, and it's so good, and you're doing all that from a place of love. That's how you're going to manifest it. In fact, all kinds of cool stuff's going to manifest just because you're in that place of love. Another interesting side of it, too, and Anne-Marie, I'm going to let you give your viewpoint on this, too, but I just felt like I really needed to address this one quickly.
go for it.
But another big piece of it, too, is you ask, how do you manifest? Actually, we're manifesting all the time. Every single one of us, everything, look around your life. Look around your room where you are right now. If you're outside, look around at what's outside. You manifested all of this. Everything that's around you, all the people around you, the animals around you, the things around you, the food, the roof, the air. You manifested all of it. So we're manifesting all the time. I think what you're really asking is, how do we manifest deliberately? And the secret to deliberate manifestation is whenever you're putting out requests, you do it from your highest vibrational place, which is your place that you feel best. That's why we say, go to the love. Because when you're in your love, that's when you're feeling the best, right? You're feeling great. Love doesn't hurt. I don't care what the song says. Love doesn't hurt. Real love never actually hurts. Love actually feels good. Real love is great, that. Right? I always took issue with that song. Like, who the heck? They must have been in a really bad place to write love hurts. Because that's just not, it's not true. It's not the love that hurts. It's the loss, the lack of love that hurts, not the actual love. But,
right.
Yeah. So did you want to take a stab at what he had to say too? I just want to get those 2 points in.
Yeah, well, I think you make very valid, very good points. Absolutely. I agree with you. I'd also like to just say that, just sort of reiterating actually, that to let something in, you also have to realize that you have to get out of the way, because it's coming to you. Mm-hmm. It's the flow of positive energy is bringing it to you. You just have to not block it. And the way we block it is by worrying about it, or fearing something, or looking at the fact that you don't have it yet. So anytime you recognize that you don't have it yet, you're blocking it from coming.
Right.
So you have to, like Neville Goddard says, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, feel like you already have it. And also, you can, if you find that too hard to do, you can just forget about it. Like, don't even think about it. But don't block it. Don't block it. Because I have had many things, and if you think about it, I'm sure you have too, had many things manifest that you asked for, and you thought, wow, I just thought about that once, and then I never thought about it again.
That's right.
And it manifested because you weren't blocking it.
Right.
So it's the things that we really, really, really want so badly that we tend to block, and that's why they don't happen.
I agree.
So,
yeah.
And also, I hate to say this, Walt, but this is something that I sometimes wonder about. So I feel that sometimes things don't manifest because our spirit guides or our angels or God or just something or somebody prevents it from happening because they know that it's not in our best interest. And I wrestle with that because I believe in the science of the law of attraction and that we attract things whether we want them or not. But I also wonder if there's sometimes some other influences that may affect what's happening besides other people, because, other people might affect what's happening too. But if there's just some sort of divine intervention that says, that's really not what you want, so we're just not going to get that to you. I sometimes wonder about that. You know?
I know what you mean, and I know a lot of people feel that way. You'll see a lot of people on the groups on Facebook or just in general conversation, maybe offline conversations, people talking about how your spirit guides, God, universe, angels, whatever, have your better good in mind. And sometimes the answer is no, there's something better coming along, so we're not going to let you have this. And I think that I understand where that viewpoint comes from, and I appreciate what they're trying to say. I think they're actually distorting what's actually going on when they say that. And the reason I think that they're distorting it is they are making two assumptions that are not true. One assumption is that our, what we call our inner being, our higher self, God, angels, spirit guides, whatever, that the answer that comes from them is something other than yes. That there are times when the answer is no, or I've got a better idea, or something like that. And I think that's misleading because I think the answer is always yes. Because the universe, no matter what, whether we're in a good mood, bad mood, indifferent mood, whether we're focusing on what we want or the lack of what we want, the answer is always yes. It is never, ever no. It's always yes. So because it's always yes, what we're really saying is whenever things aren't showing up, instead of acknowledging that I in some way had my mind focused not in the way that was in my own best interest, I am therefore going to say that my higher power stepped in and said, oh, no, we're not going to give you this because it's... No. I'm the one who put my mind in the wrong place. And it wasn't even wrong. It's not like it was morally indefensible or something like that. It's just it was not pointed in the direction that I wanted it to point at. This is one of the topics that Cindy and I talked about many times when we've talked about Neville Goddard's teaching. Because Neville Goddard takes the word sin and defines it the way it was originally designed. When you go to the original etymological roots of the word sin, it doesn't mean doing something wrong. It doesn't mean violating God's law. It doesn't mean creating some sort of horrible thing that's going to send you to hell. It means you just missed the mark. It means that there was a target. Instead of hitting the bullseye, you didn't hit the bullseye. And that's all that it means. And when you understand it that way, then you begin to realize sinning is just, I just didn't focus on what I wanted. I focused on something else, so I got something else. It's not morally wrong. It's not like you're condemned to hell. It's just, you just missed. That's all. You just changed your aim. And simultaneously, you change your aim. You don't say, well, my higher power made me miss. No, it didn't. Your higher power, you did it. You're the one who missed. But don't beat yourself up about it. It's not that big of a deal, So I understand where they're coming from, but I think they're really missing the mark. I think in that sense they're sinning because they're saying, it's my higher power stepping in and saying, I don't think that's really what you need. You need something better. No, it's not. That's a sin to say that. It's missing the mark to say that. The mark is you are the one who always attracts. You are the one who always attracts. Yeah. And regarding people's influence, yes, we can be influenced by others. But here's the caveat, and it is so important. The only kind of influence one person can have on another is positive reinforcing. It is not possible for one person to influence another negatively. Nor is it possible for someone who wants to influence a positive influence to influence somebody who's in a negative state. You both have to be in a positive state or else the influence doesn't work. And the reason for that is vibrational alignment. If you don't have similar vibrational alignment, you can't even connect. You can't even be communicating. And if you're on a low vibrational alignment, all you're really doing is connecting and reinforcing on stuff that neither of you want. And if you're talking about an inner being or an angel, well, they're never on a low vibration. They're always on a high vibration. So therefore, the only times they can ever possibly influence us is if we are also on that same high level. And that's all the positive level. There's nothing about contradicting there. It's all just reinforcement. So that's my view.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm not going to argue with you because I also agree with you on that we create everything and that the law is the law and that's fine. I can live with that. But one thing you said I don't agree with is you said that you can't influence somebody negatively. Maybe I misunderstood that, because I know there have been times when I've been happy as a lark and somebody comes into my world, into my presence with a really down attitude or says something to me that brings me down. And I'll admit it's me allowing myself to be brought down, because nobody can make you do anything.
Right.
But something happens, or somebody says something to me, or their just presence of being so down affects me. And even if I don't drop a lot, I'll drop a little bit, and I have to forcibly bring myself back up again. And sometimes I've gotten into situations where somebody might even say something to me, and then I start thinking about this, that, and the other thing, and I start getting really down, and I've gone into depressed states, just having that happen. So,
sure.
So I think that does happen. And I think likewise, you can positively influence somebody who's, I think it's really hard for somebody who's really super depressed to just come into the presence of somebody who's really super excited and happy and be lifted up to their same degree. No, I disagree. I don't think that can happen, because there's too much of a difference. But I do think that if you're happy and you're being joyful and you go around some other people, you will lift them up. I think this happens all the time, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I agree with everything that you said. The only thing I might do is reframe just one little piece of it. And the part that I reframe is when you say that you're being influenced, what you're actually saying is you are resonating on that level. So you started off with the scenario, you're on a higher level, somebody comes along at a low level and influences you. Well, that means you were receptive on that low level. You were at that moment on that high level, but you had a feeling of receptivity. Like, yes, you were open to that low level thing. Whereas somebody who doesn't get brought down, they're not open to it. For instance, a non-physical being. Non-physical beings never resonate at low levels. They're not open to feeling that low level stuff. So
right.
You have to be open to it. You have to be receptive to that position. And we can be. We can definitely be, as human beings especially, we can be at one level and receptive to another level. That's how we climb levels or fall down levels, either way. While it might be too far for somebody who's at a depressed level to reach pure love, they are, at least in some cases, in many cases, open to something at like the boredom level. That's something that's within reach. Well, it means they're receptive to that. They may not be feeling it right now, but they're receptive to it. So you can come in, if you're in a bored state and they're in a depressed state, they might be receptive to joining you on your boredom state just because it's within reach. It feels like, I can resonate to that. And so you just help them, just by being there, you just help them feel better.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good point. And it's true, because everybody has a certain set point.
Right.
And we can move up and down a little bit, in relation to our set point, but that set point is pretty much where we're set. And until we make intentional, deliberate actions or whatever to move it deliberately one way or the other, it pretty much is there for a while, right?
Well, that term set point, I always found that one to be a fascinating term. And I think it's actually a little misleading. Because a set point, the word set makes it sound like it's kind of stuck there or fixed there. But if you actually look at what happens throughout your day, and if you could somehow kind of take a measurement of, well, at this point in my day, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm feeling like a 6, and then later on in the day, I'm a 3, and then later I'm a 7, or I'm a 5. Our so-called set point is constantly changing throughout the day. And that's the part that I find to be ironic. We're calling it a set point, but it changes constantly. So it probably isn't even a set point. It's like the current snapshot in time point is what it really is.
But I think that I think that we do move up and down all day long. But I do think that there's a set point. To me, what the set point is it's like your natural resting point. It's like where you naturally go back to. And I think that different people have different set points. I know, for example, my son and I are very different people, and we're at very different levels. And I know that his set point is a lot lower than mine right now. And I operate, I don't even know exactly where, but I'm usually pretty happy. I think I was on like 6 or something, 6 or 5, somewhere between there. It's like kind of where my set point is. and I'll drop down to frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, I'll drop down to disappointment, but
Sure.
I hardly ever get into the anger or the rage stages. I just don't go down. I don't go down there very much at all. But I'll bounce back. I'll bounce back to where I feel comfortable, to where my norm is, to where I'm laying in bed and I get out of bed and I'm feeling good. That's kind of where I'm at every day. And other people are at different levels, and especially people who I think who are medicated are at certain levels where they go up and they go down, but their like natural resting point is at a certain level that usually doesn't change too much without a lot of work or without a traumatic experience. You know, for example, let's take, and this is, well, I don't even want to use it. It's so bad. All right, let's take, now, let me think of a good one. I was picking all these bad ones. I don't want to come up with a bad example. Okay, so let's take a married couple.
Okay.
They're happy, they're going along, blah, blah, blah. And then they have a baby. And that just raises their vibration. And now they're just, they might just be up a little bit higher in their set points because now they're just naturally just a little bit happier more of the time. And so that might have raised their set point. And so they still are going to go up and down. But I do think that we have sort of a resting place where we're each like most comfortable. At least that's what I think.
And as you think that, so it is. Because you're,
there you go.
because you're right. As long as you think that, you're right.
That's right.
The set point you're describing, or I think you described it as a comfort zone point. That comfort zone point is a point of high resonance for that particular person. That person saying, yes, I have, pick whatever emotion you want to put to it. Let's say it's a point of frustration. So maybe somebody's comfort zone is in the frustration point. So they have strong resonance with frustration. Why? Well, there's probably something that they've been hanging on to for the longest time, and they get frustrated about it. And whenever they start getting away from the frustration point, they just go back to, well, yeah, but there's this thing I'm frustrated about, and I'm going to think about that again, and I'll probably tell my friends about it, and I'm going to complain to my mom about it, and by the way, I'm going to talk about it on the podcast, and it's just this ongoing thing. I'm constantly looking at the frustration point. And that makes it seem like it's the built-in set point. But here's the thing. We spend all this time focusing on the frustration point. What else could we possibly get? Of course we're stuck on that point. Of course that's the predominant form. That's the one we keep going back to. That's our comfort zone. You just said it yourself.
Yeah, you're right. That's where your comfort zone is. Yeah. I guess you could call it your comfort zone. That's a great way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it. I would compare it to that.
I mean, Abraham calls it a default point. Right? It's your default setting. You go by default with whatever your predominant life experience is. And what's your predominant life experience? What you think about. And it just becomes this circle. It becomes a self-reinforcing prophecy in a sense. So my life experience has always been that I'm poor, and so I just keep thinking that I'm poor. And I feel poor, and I'm always experiencing poor. And sure enough, poorness continues to happen. So my emotional set point is always being depressed about being poor. It just becomes a self-reinforcing thing. And Abraham's point is, this is not something that you're just locked into. This is not something that this is your predominant comfort zone forever. And it doesn't necessarily even have to take a lot of work to get out of it. We find often that it does. Sometimes experientially it seems like it does because we spend so much time trying to focus on this over here, and we find ourselves snapping back to that depression or that frustration point. No, I don't want to think about the frustration point. I want to think about this beautiful new house I want to attract. So I'm going to focus on the house, and there I am focusing on the frustration point again. It must be that I'm being snapped back in there by forces of the universe. No, it's just because I keep bringing my attention back there. So how much work does it take? Well, I don't know. How much work does it take for you to change your focus? That's the whole issue right there. How much are we willing to change our focus? It can take us a long time. I've taken years to learn how to change my focus. Am I getting better at it? Yeah. Am I able to do it easier now? Yeah. Am I able to do it in broader swaths of ranges? Yeah. And do I still find myself being snapped back? Yes. And who's doing the snapping back? Me.
Right. It's true. No, it's true. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not something you're going to learn in a minute. It's not like flipping on a light switch. It does. It takes time. It takes time, and it takes work, and it takes patience, and it takes practice. But hey, that's what we're here for, right? I mean, I don't know. I think we're here to learn, so I'm good with it.
And for me, I like the idea of change. This is why I brought up the whole idea of the set point. I like the idea of changing that to like the point of the moment or whatever, because in doing that, in changing it to, no, this isn't a set point. This isn't something that I have in some way locked in as a permanent comfort zone. By recognizing that my so-called set point changes throughout the day, it's my way of recognizing I don't have to be dependent upon what's happening to me for my feeling. I'm not locked in to whatever my predominant experiential pattern is. I can change that. And in so doing, I change my experiential pattern. And that's the beauty of it.
And that's a really important point to bring up, I think, is that we are in control of how we feel and our emotions.
Right.
And we can not let outside things affect us. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy to do. That's very difficult to do, but it's still something that is true. Mike has this happiness thing. I should find it. It's like happiness is a choice, know, that you have to make.
He's
but
right.
I don't want to go leave it right now. It's somewhere around here at the Button Tree. We have it up on the bathroom wall. We have it up in the windows.
Oh, good.
All over the place, yeah.
That's good. No, I think it's a great thing. The fact is that even the message, I love the fact that you've said this a few times, because I find myself saying the same thing, but it's also a reminder to myself, I got to change the message. I keep telling myself over and over again, this is hard to do, this is hard to do. And in doing so, I reinforce that this is going to be hard to do, and sure enough, it turns out to be hard to do. Maybe it's time for me to change the message and say, you know what, this is easy. This is easy. And I'm going to start believing this is easy. And in so doing, it becomes easy.
That's right. No, you make a very good point. And that's, you know what I love when you recognize things like that, where if you tell yourself ahead of time, this is going to be easy. Then when you listen to Abraham and you hear them say things like, okay, you're going to get this really easily now.
Right. Yes.
or you're really going to like this now. And it's like, they're just setting this up.
Of course they are.
That's great. No, I've really started to employ that. Like, sometimes I'll tell Mike, my husband, I'll say, you're going to like this. Even though I don't know if he will or not. And sometimes I'll even say it when I think he may not like it. Mm-hmm. I said it like, you're going to like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing now. It's very effective. It really is. I was doing it with Louise. I mean, when we were dealing with her health issue and we had our big Christmas miracle and so forth, but leading up to that, neither one of us was feeling really strong about it. I mean, she actually probably felt more confident than I did, just because on the trip over to the hospital, the EMS technician who was working with her was just so reassuring that, oh, this is very common, we can fix this, no big deal. So I think she was more confident than I was. I was driving behind the ambulance in my car alone, and the only clue I had that everything was going okay was that they weren't turning on the lights and the siren and rushing to the hospital. That was the only clue I had that everything was fine, So different perspectives, different experiences. She was experiencing an EMS technician saying, everything's fine, this is going to be great, this is not a big deal. They deal with this all the time, we can solve this is not going to be difficult. And here I am in the other car saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I've never seen this before. My wife's heart is beating out of rhythm. This cannot be a good thing. How could this possibly work out? I've got all this thought process going on there. Just same experience, the same situation.
That's right. That reminds me of a story. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah,
it may not be so quick, but.
Well, even if it's long, it's okay.
My former husband, my husband.
Your husband?
My husband.
I love that.
I borrowed that from a friend of mine named Kathy.
That's good.
She used that. I said, I like that. My husband.
That's good.
Anyway, he and I were in Peru back in the late 80s, and we were on a bus, and it was not a good time. And there were a lot of militants around, and just kind of a dangerous time to be traveling around Peru. And we were not with a group or anything. And anyway, and I spoke a little Spanish. My husband spoke a little less. And anyway, we're on this bus, and this woman turns around and says to me, and I forget how it exactly happened, but someone said, or maybe I overheard someone say, there's going to be a checkpoint, and they're going to take off all the Americans. This is routine. It happens all the time. Yes, we're approaching the checkpoint where they take the Americans off and check them for their passports or something like that. Yeah, this is routine. And something about that scared me, but also reassured me that what was happening was routine and it was not anything that was to be, like really feared about.
Right.
But somehow or other, what I expressed to him was just something like, don't worry, it's going to be all right. Something like that. I didn't tell him the whole story because all of a sudden these armed men came on the bus and started pointing and called us off the bus. And we had to go walk off the bus over this. I'll never forget. It was like a drain that you swear people's blood was going into this drain. It was really creepy. And
wow.
There were all these guards around with these big machine guns. And we were led into this little tiny room with one little light bulb hanging from the ceiling. And there was this big guy who did not look very happy with like badges on and all this stuff in the uniform, sitting at this desk. And all he said was, pasaporte. So we give him our passports, and then he goes, whatever he said, it was itinerary in Spanish. And we kind of figured out it was like itinerary is like, no, we don't have one. No tenemos, we don't have it. And he's like, what do you mean you don't have it?
Right.
You're like, you have to have an itinerary. No tenemos, we don't have it. We're not with a group. We're just coming to visit and hike. And I was so not afraid that he just let us go because I wasn't afraid. Mm-hmm. I wasn't giving off those really scared vibes, like I'm trying to hide something or I'm trying to do something illegal. Like I was just not afraid. And that feeling ebbed into the room, and he was like, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, my husband said, he was not going to let us go, but you were so calm that it was okay. Mm-hmm. So that was really good. Why were you so calm? I was like, so then I fully explained exactly everything that I had heard, and he's like, oh, okay. Wish I had known all that before. And I was like, well, there was no time. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's true. It's like pre-paving. What you think is going to happen, that happens a lot. So we got to pre-pave our day. We've got to pre-pave our scenarios to happen the way we want them to happen. And much more often, they'll go that way.
That's exactly right.
So, thank you.
Yeah, no, yeah. Good story. And you basically reinforced why we do daily processes. Why do we meditate? Why do we do affirmations? Why do we build vision boards? Why do we do special methods? Why do we do the processes that the Abraham book has at the end of Asking It Is Given? Why do we do all these things? We do that to get ourselves into the mindset of believing that everything is working out the way we need it to work out. The universe always has our back. That was a big part of what Louise and I have gone through lately. As I look back over the last 3 months, during the experience that we've been going through, it was chaotic. It was scary at times. It was, at one point, it was terrifying. It was a bit traumatic. There was a lot of doubt, a lot of worry. And as I look back, I see the universe had our back every step of the way in ways that I couldn't even see at the time. I had to look back in order to be able to see it because I couldn't see it when it was actually happening. But as I look back, seriously, it was so clear that God's source, the universe, had our back that it makes me wonder, how did I miss it? It seems so obvious looking back that it was true.
Well, it's very easy to get caught up in the worry of it all.
It
and
certainly
that's
is.
What we do. As humans, that's what we do. We get caught up in the worry of it all. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that I've learned from Abraham is you just can't worry about stuff.
Yeah.
You just can't worry about it because your worry is, I love the phrase, worrying is like praying for something you don't want.
Exactly.
And it's so true. So that's one of the biggest lessons I think that I've learned from Abraham and the whole law of attraction is don't worry. You block everything that you want through worry. So.
And every time that we have an experience that plays out like the one that Louise and I had, it doesn't have to be really traumatic. It can be a very simple one too. I think it's really important to remember every time we looked at one of those experiences that happened in the past, seeing how God slash source slash the universe slash the energy slash inner being slash guardian angels, whatever you want to call it, had our back. If we can remember that over and over again, then each time that we're in a situation where we have a tendency to worry, we just have to say, stop. There have been all these experiences I've had where I was worried, but the universe had my back. God had my back. Spirit had my back. And it proves out over and over and over again. That actually did help. This past experience that Louise and I had, there were a number of occasions, particularly on the day when we got the misdiagnosis, where despite the fact that reality was telling me that Louise was in really, really bad shape, she was facing a dread disease condition, it was one that would likely lead to a horrible death, and I refused to believe it. I refused to believe the evidence of my senses because my experience kept telling me that only happens if I hold my attention on that reality. If I refuse to buy into it and buy into what I know instead, which is it's up to me to focus on what I really want in life and then let the universe, trust God, trust my angels, trust my spirit guides to have my back, then they will have my back, even if I'm not seeing it happening. That's the essence of faith right there. That's the essence of belief in the face of reality. And that's the challenge. Yeah. The challenge is, can we believe in the face of what reality seems to be showing us? Because if we can do that, we can manifest anything.
A castle is as easy as a button, right?
It certainly is. It certainly is.
But I agree with you. No, I agree with you that it's the trick of not worrying. And I have a friend who had a situation happen and she's all worried, and I told her that line about, don't worry. And I think it's really hard to stop the worry from coming, especially as a parent. I've learned this. It's very hard. It's almost impossible to stop the worry from coming. But what I've learned to do, and I try to do, I'm not always good at it, but I try very hard to let go of the worry and replace the worry with trust and faith as soon as possible, and even prayer. But prayer in so much as I'm trusting that it will happen okay and things will turn around or things will get better or something like that, because it's just really hard to not worry. I don't know. I think it's just a natural mechanism that's built into people that we worry. And so I think worry is very natural. But Abraham's taught me, you just have to let it go. You have to get your focus off of that. You have to believe and have faith that things will be okay. And like you say, the universe has your back. So I don't want people to think that it's easy to just stop worrying from happening, because I still worry. Worry still comes in. I still worry about a lot of things. And sometimes I worry about the most random things that are just like crazy. Like
well, you're good at
not
it.
Even worry, but just like I picture something happening bad, like something that I saw in the news, years ago, and all of a sudden it'll just like flash in my head, and I just let it go. And that's the thing, is you just got to let it go.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, letting it go every time is how you actually get to the point where you stop worrying. That's the nice thing. You keep practicing over and over again. Well, eventually, worry just becomes no longer part of your daily experience.
Right. But I say that, but I think that there are still times when worry will come in for whatever reason.
You choose it. You don't necessarily do it deliberately, but you choose it. Yeah, I mean, you choose it by focusing on it. That's what we all do whenever we let worry in. Whenever worry shows up, we, in some way, chose it. We focused on it. We said, you know what? I always worry. And we're right. It's things like that, right? It's just that simple. I always worry. Well, yeah, of course. There you go. We do it. We're so good at that. It's crazy how good we are at that.
Yeah.
and to me, that's actually encouraging. I'm encouraged by that, because if we can focus on worry, well, and we do it really well. I mean, we can get focused really, really well on worry. We can focus on that. Well, we can focus on any of the other emotions. We have that power. And that's cool.
Of course we do.
That's cool.
Of course.
That to me is encouraging, because that means I don't have to be stuck on worry. I can actually get out of worry. I don't have to be a victim of worry. I don't have to be somebody who's constantly finding reasons to worry, because I can choose another emotion if I just focus on it and fix myself on often enough and choose to live there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We can choose any of the emotions. And, but I also think that we're sort of programmed to react in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if somebody tells you that your uncle has just died, you are going to feel sad. You are going to feel grief. You are going to feel loss. You are going to feel, you know, whatever it is you're going to feel. Like we're sort of programmed to have those emotions right away. I don't think that you say to yourself, I'm going to choose to be miserable now. I'm going to choose to be upset now. I'm going to choose to, I don't think consciously, at least not consciously, we don't choose that. But I think that we're just programmed somehow to feel that. And then it's up to us to recognize that emotion and then change it when we're ready to change it.
Well, sure. Look at all the times when we're growing up, when we're encouraged to feel certain things under certain circumstances. So if there's an experience where we had, you know, a friend or a relative of the family who died, and all the adults are experiencing and showing sadness, that teaches us very quickly, oh, well, this is the time to feel sadness. So we will feel sadness, and we do feel sadness. And then the next time we hear about somebody who died, okay, well, this is the time to feel sadness. So we're constantly into it. Yeah, you're right. We get programmed by it. And every step of the way, we said, yeah, I agree. I'm going to feel sadness. You're right. Now, did we do it with the intention of feeling sad? No, we did it with the intention of doing what the crowd said you're supposed to do. We didn't necessarily know when we were 2 years old we're supposed to feel sad because sad is somehow a virtuous thing or something like that. That wasn't what we were thinking. It's like, no, the big people feel sad, so therefore, I follow the lead of the big people. I'm going to feel sad. Same thing happens with a kid who skins his knee. You can have two different sets of parents. You have one set of parents, the kid falls and skins his knee, and the mother or the father comes over and says, oh, you skinned your knee. Oh, that's so terrible. And, oh, I understand why you're crying, and so now you're crying, and so on and so forth. And then you have the same kid with a different set of parents. The kid falls and skins his knee, and the other parent says, oh, you skinned your knee. Well, that's a shame. Let me patch that for you. See, that's okay. And the kid doesn't hardly even scream. Why? Because he was taught that it's not big of a deal. He was taught that. Did he buy into it? Yes, he bought into it. And he got exposed to it over and over again, so he believed it. Was he programmed? Yes. Did he choose it every step of the way? Yes. Both are true. They go hand in hand. You can't actually have one without the other. It's impossible. It's not like it happens to you and you have no control over any of it, but it's not like you don't follow what you're taught, because you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of programming going on.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of choices, and it's important to realize that we have choices, even though we are still sort of, if you will, programmed, as you say.
Yeah, the programming is not permanent. Unless we choose to believe that it is. Well, if we say it's permanent, then it is. But if it's not permanent, then it's not. Which is wonderful.
Yes, well.
It really is that simple. If we choose... The movie, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, it was a cute movie. It wasn't really one of my favorite movies, but it was a cute movie. But I love the one Indian phrase that it kept repeating in it. Everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not yet all right, it's not yet the end.
There you go.
It's just that simple, you know. So you believe that, and guess what? That's what comes true. Now, if you were to take the opposite position and say, "Well, that's not true," guess what? It's not going to be true. It's what you believe. It's like the conversation that Joel had with his psychiatric. I think it was a psychiatric friend, a psychiatrist who is a complete disbeliever in law of attraction theory. And his friend was trying to argue with him one day and try to convince him that this is all a bunch of nonsense. And his friend finally said, look, I understand what you're saying. I understand that you feel like this has really done something for you. But you got to understand, the only reason this stuff works is because you believe it's going to work. It's not actually working. It's just because you're believing it's working. And Joel said, yes, exactly. Thank you for proving my point.
Yes. Exactly. Yes, I like that. I like that a lot.
It's like the medical researchers who say, well, that's only a placebo effect. What do you mean only? Where does only fit into it? Placebo effect is a good thing. You know, don't just reject it because it's a placebo. It's good. Use it. You know, leverage it. Take advantage of it.
Exactly.
The human mind is just amazingly powerful. I still don't feel like I've plumbed the depths of the power of the human mind, but I feel like I've started to ask the right questions, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I have dipped my toe into the water of wisdom and knowledge and like maybe even not even my toe, but just maybe the edge of my toenail. This pool of wisdom that is so infinite and vast. And when I think about, how much there is to know out there, I feel like but yet I give myself credit for learning something because I know I'm much wiser now than I was 30 years ago. So I have to give myself a little bit of credit for learning a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's also part of it. I mean, I've really been noticing a lot in the last month or so how often we are very difficult on ourselves. We're tough on ourselves. We kind of beat ourselves up a little bit. Oh, I don't seem to get this. I learned this slowly. I don't pick, we do that kind of thing a lot. And I'm recognizing that the more that we kind of catch ourselves in that and find a way to turn it around, to use the Abraham pivot concept, right? Instead of focusing on what you don't want, pivot it around to what you do want, or find some way to pivot to something that's more pleasing to you. That process is an empowering process in many, many ways. I mean, yes, it's great for manifesting what you want, but more importantly, it's a great way to unlearn the programming and replace it with the programming that you want instead of the programming you don't want. We actually do have that power. And that, boy, just knowing that I can reprogram, even if I haven't figured out yet exactly how to reprogram X, whatever X is, just knowing that I can do it, just knowing that there is a method, I know like the skeletal bones of it, the pivoting, okay, just knowing that, even if I haven't mastered it yet, just knowing it is reassuring. Just knowing it helps me to get to the point where all of a sudden I'm able to find that pivot point. And all of a sudden I'm able to find that silver lining, that thing to focus on that's more in alignment with what I want, instead of focusing on the one that I don't want.
Absolutely. That knowing that we have that power is so huge. Yes. It's so huge. And that's why I feel I'm just really grateful that we're able to share this information with other people. Mm. And help other people to learn that they have the power within themselves to change anything about their lives that they want and to create their world anew, and that they have the power, that it's up to us. We are the creators. I feel like it's so important to have that knowledge, and I'm grateful to be able to share that when I can.
And by the way, my Monday evening co-host Shelley has tuned in, and she left a message a little while back. She says, you have to get caught up in the excitement of it all. I think that's what we were talking about when we first started the conversation, saying this is about love. Because love is like that high emotion. It's the really highest one. And she's right. When you get into that excitement level, it's so easy to feel the higher levels of joy and happiness and love and clarity and all of that. Because you're in that higher vibrational space, and it's an exciting space. In fact, I think it's Carlos. Carlos told a really good story about 2 weeks ago. He said, I asked a question something along the lines of, what do you do if you need to climb up the ladder, so to speak? If you need to get yourself into a good space because you want to deliberately attract something, what do you do? And he described how he almost literally just jumps up and down and says, yes, I am so excited! He forces himself into this really big, excited posture just so he can feel the higher levels of vibration. I thought, that's really cool. Take advantage of excitement in order to get yourself to a higher level. I think it's a great idea.
I do too. I think that's great. Especially if you can get there. There are times when I couldn't jump up and down in the middle of the day, but if you can, that's great.
If you can't jump up and down, you kind of can measure how far do you think you can go. So let's say you're in the lowest levels, you're in depression. How high could I jump up? Well, probably not very high. So right now, and I'm just going to pick one. Right now, I could probably reach anger because I'm pretty pissed at somebody. So okay, I want to get excited about being angry at that person for a moment. Do I want to live there the rest of my life? No, but it'll climb me up a couple steps on the scale, get me to a higher place. And so now I can vent my anger like, oh, I am so angry at that person, and get it all out, and just express why it is I'm so angry and how unfair that person was to me, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, boy, I'm glad I got that out. And now I'm in a different place. And now that I'm in that different place, if I have the presence of mind to recognize, oh, I'm higher up on the scale, now I can look to see how much higher can I go. Can I go for something, right. Can I get something maybe close to hope? Maybe I couldn't see hope before, but maybe I can see hope now. And so now I can start getting excited about feeling hopeful. So I think it works on all levels.
Yeah, I agree. It's very deliberate though. And what
It
you're talking
is.
about has to be done very deliberately. And that's
Yes.
part of the awareness that we have the capabilities of all this.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You know,
Well,
I think that's an important part of it.
you have to be mindful. Mindfulness is a big part of it. I never really understood the word mindful until this year. This year, for the first time, I always
Really?
thought of, mindful always was, I don't know, it was just one of those popular buzzwords. And buzzwords never
Yeah.
rub me the right way anyway. I always tend to go against what the crowd is looking at. So when I hear another buzzword, I just kind of dismiss it as a buzzword. But this year, it started to have some meaning for me, because mindfulness this year became being aware of where I am emotionally and where I want to be, and then going for it. That's what mindfulness became. And when I thought of it
That's
that
great.
way, mindfulness now all of a sudden means something to me. It's not just a buzzword anymore.
Well, that's good
Yeah.
because buzzwords are useless unless you have some emotion attached to it or feeling or some sort of relationship to it, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. If it's just a buzzword, it doesn't really help very much.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
And by the way, Jennifer was agreeing with what you were saying too. She says sadness is an emotion that normally exists in humanity. She's right. It is a normal emotion. It's part of being in the contrast. It's going to be there. I think the real question is, where are we going to live?
Well, as you said, where's your comfort zone? I like that. Where is your comfort zone? You know, where do you rest? Where do you feel where you are most of the time? I think that's the question.
Well, not just where is your comfort zone, but where do you want to be related to your comfort zone? For a lot of people, their comfort zone is a negative space. There are a lot of people who are
That's
very
true.
comfortable in negative places, you know. Is that where they want to
That's
live all
true.
the time? Probably not. You know, not if they really, really thought about it, but it's comfortable because it's familiar. The familiarity, the interesting thing about the comfort zone, it's really comfortable. You know what I mean? It's really very rarely
What a
comfortable. It's usually quite uncomfortable, but we settle for it because it's familiar. It's so familiar that it's like an old shirt that we just love to wear because we're so
Right.
used to it.
And people don't like change. That's the thing is, even though change is the only thing that's constant in this universe, we don't like it. We don't like change. We want things to be the same. We want to go back to that same restaurant and sit in that same seat. We want to wear that same pair of socks over and over again or whatever. We don't like change. We don't like change.
One thing
At
that
least I don't think most people do. Maybe some people do, but I don't think a lot of people like change.
I think you're probably right. I think a lot of people they find change to be uncomfortable. I like Joel's interpretation of comfort zone. I wouldn't necessarily try to word it for him, but the gist of it would be the moment you're in your comfort zone is the moment that you know it's time to try to get out of your comfort zone. Because
That's right.
It's not a good place to be. It really isn't.
Well, there's no growth in your comfort zone,
Right.
right?
There's
So
no
if you want to
growth.
grow, if you want to keep learning, if you want to keep evolving, then you have to keep stepping out of your comfort zone. And then when you reach the next level, you stay there until it gets comfortable, until you're set there, and then you move on. You know, and that's the way you grow.
And not just growth, there's also no improvement. When you're in the comfort zone, nothing
Right.
improves. It just stays where
Right.
it's at. You know? So
Right.
if you're, most of us get involved in learning about law of attraction because we want to have something else that we don't currently have. You know, we start from a position of lack, and we ask for this thing that we lack, and then we try to get ourselves into a vibrational space of that thing that we lack, and often we fail, sometimes we succeed, and when we succeed, we tend to attract something that's vibrationally similar to it, and then we start experiencing this crazy road of, sometimes I ask for it and I get it, sometimes I ask for it and I don't get it, more often it's the second one, all this kind of craziness, right? But it all comes down to one basic thing. When we're putting out there, we're putting out what Abraham calls that rocket of desire, when we're putting out there this thing that is different from what's in our comfort zone, that's the time when we're saying, I'm not satisfied with the comfort zone, I want something more. I want something beyond what the comfort zone can give me because the comfort zone never improves. It just can't because it's a comfort zone. The moment that I decide I want improvement is the moment I'm ready to leave my comfort zone. And if I can recognize that and stick to it, say, you know what? I'm not going to stay in this comfort zone because it's really not serving me at all. I'm going to go for something better. That's the moment that we're finally willing to attract thing rather than lack of thing. That's the moment when we're willing to attract experience rather than the lack of experience. And that's the time we're willing to attract something better than what we've got.
Yeah. That's when your rocket of desire goes out there, you know? Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. And it's a great thing.
Very good.
It's very reinforcing. It's very reassuring for me. Because once again, it tells me I don't have to be locked into my comfort zone. I don't have to live with what I've lived with all this time. I can actually change my experience. Isn't that a great thing? It
is a great thing. And I wish everybody realized that, because it is a great thing.
Yeah, I wish that I would always realize that. I don't even have time to help everybody else. I mean, I do by doing the podcast. But even the podcast, I do the podcast to help me. That's my primary goal, you know. And I do. I get lots of help. I make the joke often. I have more life coaches than anybody else in America, you know, just because I have all these co-hosts who help me through stuff.
Yes.
But and do I love the fact that I'm able to help others? Absolutely. You know, I love that part. But nevertheless, my primary goal is to help me get out of my comfort zone. Help me, you know, and if that means sometimes I'm kind of struggling, well, then okay, then I struggled. I don't have to struggle forever. But if I struggle for a bit, okay, I struggle for a bit. I'm just not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm still going for that higher place. If I can get to that higher place, it's like, yeah, got there. All right. Got a toe hold. Got a finger hold. I'm there. Got into that good feeling place.
Yeah, yeah. It feels good to get there, too.
It does. We have actually, I think, a little bit over time here, but that's all right. I do want to send out love and support to Nasha and to Deidre, who have been under the weather. Deidre let me know they've both been sick. So we're wishing full health and love sent out to you, and we're counting on you guys to really be feeling better soon so you can join us again. We're looking forward to that. And I want to thank all the people who tuned in and were listening in to the live cast. We appreciate that as well. We're going to invite you also to make sure you're a subscriber. If you're not yet a subscriber, the instructions are on the homepage, LOAtoday.net. And with that in mind, I'm going to say, Anne-Marie, thank you for doing the show with me this week. It's been great, and it's been a good discussion.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on and for running this podcast. I think it's a great thing, so thank you.
All right.
And please give Louise my best.
I will do that.
Bye, everybody. I hope you all stay focused on the positive and pivot to the positive. And if you need help, call your pivot pal.
Absolutely. There you go. And with that in mind, we'll ask you to join us next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.